on a purely practical basis, it may be better for someone to have an affair to fulfil their particular needs and stay within a marriage for the practical reasons. On an emotional level, I believe an affair is the ultimate betrayal, and I would not want to be with someone who could betray me. So from a personal level, it's totally unacceptable.
I totally agree with you.
So if it was Eddie, one strike and he's out, you mean?
Absolutely.
Sure. Was that your view as well, Larry?
Well, don't test me.
It would be more difficult, I think, where you've had one marriage and a lot of hurt, and I've had two and a fair bit of hurt, where you've been together for nearly 30 years. If it happened, Patrick did it, I think there might be a lot more forgiveness in you.
Or Rosemary did it.
Or Rosemary did, of course, than maybe between us two.
Being faithful is absolutely vital, isn't it, to a relationship? It must be, because you don't become blind when you get married. You can look and admire a handsome man or a pretty woman, but they're not for you. You have made your commitment to your husband or wife, and they are the ones who you're going to live with for the rest of your lives. I mean, I sit on a lot of committees, mostly with men, but I never look at them in that way. They are just people I work with and do have committee work with.
I don't see what you would gain by it, really. Marriage is a commitment that you build up on all the time, and you've got to solve your problems. So if you swapped for someone else, or you're just increasing your problems. It might be all right for one evening, but
you can admire but don't touch.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, I can still appreciate some of the young ladies that are around now.
Oh yes, I mean if Shirley Bassey moved in next door, I'd be very pleased. But it wouldn't make any difference.
No.
That's right. She wouldn't know where your socks were, would she?
And you're quite right. She wouldn't know where our socks were.
If Chris was unfaithful, then I always say to him that I wouldn't want to know, because it's not the depth of my love, it's because next time I'm with him, I'm going to remember he was with somebody else. Next time I kiss him, I'm going to know his lips were possibly down there somewhere else with somebody else. I don't want to have those images, because I'm a very kind of creative, visual person. And if he gave that person one kiss, I'm going to think he gave them 20 kisses. We've had this argument because he said to me, well, you know, sometimes these things happen and then people make up and it makes their relationship stronger. I see what he's saying, but I know me and the hurt. If he does it, it's best that I don't find out. If I don't find out, fine, he can do it every night if he wants to, but if I find out, I know I won't be able to take it.
I think if Malcolm said to me that he had been unfaithful, I don't think unfaithfulness or one act or whatever would finish a relationship. It wouldn't for me. I don't think so anyway. I couldn't state categorically, if I ever find you're unfaithful, that's it. I think my boundaries have been pushed out more and more since I've been by myself, and I don't know what the limits are. No. Who knows what the limits are?
I think from where to go, it's been quite clear that it's just me and you, isn't it? Call it old-fashioned, whatever you want to call it, but I feel that I want out of my relationship just the partner.
It'd be very
because
difficult
that's
for you
what
to
works.
have a third person, I would have thought.
Unless you were both bisexual.
Yeah, but again, that's if we're not.
Yeah.
This is how I feel about relationship.
It can't work.
I would break my heart to think that John would want to have any intimacy with anyone else other than myself.
One really important thing is trust. You know, if you've got the trust between you, you know, that helps you deal with.
Once you've established that, and you know it's solid.
Yeah.
And don't ever doubt that.
I mean, my past two relationships, which were quite, you know, one for 8 years and one for 5 years, I never really built that
There was no trust there.
There was no
There
trust.
was knowledge of what was going on, but there was no trust within it. And we spent the first 3-4 years probably him judging me on his previous relationship.
You know, I just wasn't used to it. You know, God, I can trust this guy. You know, I can. You know, he goes out to the pub. I just, you know, sit here and watch telly, and you know, I just don't worry.
If I was unfaithful, I think, well, it's no big deal, you know. It's no big deal. It's only a biological thing, you know. It's like we got drunk and we had a shag or whatever.
If nobody knows.
But if Claire was unfaithful, I'd be absolutely devastated. I'd be desolate. I think, oh God, how could she? It would mean an enormous amount to me, you know. But me being unfaithful, I think, well, she should just think of it as being neither here nor there, really. Yeah. Yes, it seems to.
It's all about trust, isn't it? I mean, you just lose the trust there, really, because if you're not expecting it, and all of a sudden you find out that you've been unfaithful, then it's like, oh, it's not what I thought it was. I thought I trusted you, you trusted me, and you obviously don't fancy me as much as you said. I mean, it's about trust. It's about respect as well, and it is about being, liking someone, being friends. You know, when you think that. Well, when I think about my friendships with girlfriends and that, some of the things that I wouldn't let them down in certain ways because their friendship's really important, and that's what it's like with Francis. It's nice to be such a good mate.
Oh, and I remember one of the first things I felt about Roy really was in the middle of all that wonderful excitement of a new relationship was feeling like he's somebody I feel like I've known forever, and that kind of comfortableness that you can really feel open and honest and relaxed with, and that's just such
I
joy
thought
and pleasure, isn't it?
That's it, because I always thought that came with like old couples.
Yes.
They'd worked through
We
that.
are old.
But they've sort of worked through that. They've worked through that, and the end of it all, they've seen everything happen, and at the end of it all, they'll sit down and sort of breathe a sigh of relief, and it's like, oh, we're together now at the end of this. But this is something that's happening now, and it hopefully will continue to happen all the way through.
But that thing about old couples is about comfortableness, and a large part of infidelity is about fighting against comfortableness. I mean, it often makes me wonder why I've done it in the past. To a degree, it's got to say something about the relationship that you're in at that time.
At the time, that's right.
It's not giving you what you want.
Yeah,
I mean,
being comfortable isn't enough, really, is it? I mean, it might be enough when you've shared loads and loads of other stuff, and then maybe being comfortable.
No, being comfortable isn't something I
but it's
aspire
not enough.
to.
No,
really,
it's not enough to keep the relationship going.
Passion.
Well, I think it's I can't think of what the word I want. There's more of it in the first years of marriage, isn't there?
Yes. Probably early on in marriage.
Yes.
I think it develops to a deeper love.
That's right. It's it levels out a bit, doesn't it?
Yeah. If you lived at the same level as you did when you were first married, you'd never get very far, really, would you? I think the children bring in a lot of difference to a relationship, don't they? Because from starting off as a couple just immersed in one another, you suddenly have small beings who need care and love and guidance, and they're with you for a short time before they grow up. And therefore your relationship changes, doesn't it, at that stage? You don't love each other any the less, but it becomes a deeper love. Passion can be transient. I mean, when we had Gavin, you had a kidney stone at the same time.
Yeah.
And Gavin was sympathy. That was a rough patch. I mean, I don't think a passionate relationship would have survived that.
In some ways, you're working so hard at that time that, and you almost don't notice your relationship changing. There are almost times within your married life that you've got no time for passion.
Older couples who've been together a long time haven't had sexual relationships for a long time, but they're the sort of couples who won't expect to split up, and they expect to be together forever and ever. I mean, there's millions of couples who've stayed together forever who probably haven't had sex for years. But in a younger generation, you begin to question, what are we here for? What's my role in life? What am I getting out of this relationship? And it's all this process of women becoming stronger and wanting more.
My husband and I had set roles in the household, and I was the one who did all the household duties. And there's a build-up almost over the years of resentment, and I think that spills over into the sexual side of your marriage, in that there's a resentment about the rest of the relationship that spills over into the sexual side. Oh, I'm not pleasing him because I've been taken for granted. I do all the cooking, cleaning, and it's wanting something different next time round. And I don't want to be a housewife anymore. I've done that, been there, done that.
I think we were a different generation. We didn't talk to each other in the marriage. We weren't that close. We didn't do an awful lot of things together, and therefore, the sex side just sort of waned after a few years and became non-existent. And I ended up being somebody's housekeeper, which wasn't what I wanted to be. And I've actually sort of discovered sex after I left my husband, and when I met Malcolm, and now I'm sort of discovering all sorts of new things and experimenting with so many things, and it's such good fun. It really is.
It took me a long time to acknowledge that sex was as important as it is. I think there was a tendency for me to think, oh, it's not right that sex is so important to me. I'll pretend it's not. But now I've acknowledged that it is important. It is really important to her.
Well, I know one of the first conversations we had, I don't think it was within the first 2 or 3 minutes, but at some stage you said, look, I think it's important, sex is important to me. And I thought, oh, Christmas is coming. Because the same applied to me, that sex was important to me, and I wasn't going to go into a long-term relationship with someone who wasn't interested.
Sex has always been very important in our marriage.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things actually that you can let slip, particularly if there's tiredness or whatever, and it's important to sort of, if you like, almost sometimes make a conscious decision to keep it going, even when you maybe don't feel like it.
When
you've got a headache. I can't wake up. Oh no, please don't bother me this morning.
I'm sure that
happens to everybody, isn't it? I think it is very important that you, as it were, keep it going through good times and bad times.
I always think for me that it's nice when love making is a surprise. It's lovely when I ring you at work and say, I'm leaving now and I'll be in bed when you get home. Don't be late. And you can be absolutely sure she's on time that night. Absolutely sure.
I think sex is very important. I think we are pleasantly surprised that after 8 years, the intensity of our sexual attraction, we think nothing of 4 or 5 hour sessions sometimes, and it was like, wow, it was like 8 years on, this isn't, we don't perceive that as normal in gay relationships. Usually by eight years into relationships, from what we've seen, people are actually becoming more companions and less,
And because of that stability, I think there's less need for us to be looking elsewhere, really. I think less...
What do you mean less? No need.
No, well, no, but you know what I'm...
There is no need for
that. No need.
Wag the finger.
No need.
I still think people put far too much store in this word sex, because I think sex is only just a very, very, very small part of what makes a relationship work.
But I guess that's about how much emphasis you actually put on sex, isn't it? If you had bad sex or you didn't have sex for whatever reason, then you might actually shift that.
I'd rank sex much higher importance in
I'm not sure how a relationship can revolve around bad sex.
Good sex is an indicator of the rest of the relationship, and bad sex means that things aren't going on outside of the sexual relationship. They're not going well.
If you have sex before marriage, you're not going to marry that person if it's not good sex.
But what is good
Are
sex?
you? Well, I mean, I think
I don't think
good
anybody
sex
can actually
is...
really answer what is good
No,
sex.
but I think
It's got to be subjective, hasn't it?
But it's got to involve love and friendship and all those other things as well.
So therefore it is a
Well, good sex
central...
could just be good lust, couldn't it? Just it happens, it works.
And that's where you can make the mistake and go on to do the to have the relationship that's
Make
based
it more.
on the passion, and then when the passion depletes, then the relationship goes as well, or can't sustain itself rather than goes, because it was never there in the first place.
It's very difficult for a long-term relationship to actually develop where there's an imbalance between people's sexual needs.
Yes, yes.
Because where there is an imbalance, then you have the one person feeling that they're imposing themselves on the other, and the other one almost then using sex as a reward and punishment, without it being an equal partnership.
Yes, it's the person who, I suppose, wants more, who's looked upon then as the abnormal person in inverted commas, because it's difficult to adapt, I think, to be more sexual if it's not your nature. And I think maybe there's that initial meeting up and the initial passion that has a momentum of its own and is fairly short-lived, that doesn't then develop into something more.
I doubt this when people say, well, some people just don't want sex and some people do. I doubt that. I think some people actually just cut themselves off from sex because they find it difficult. I think sex is very difficult, and it's very difficult in relationships because you've got to open yourself up in a way that many people aren't prepared to do. And
the thing is, if you have a fantasy, you just tell somebody what your fantasy is.
Then you can do it. Yeah.
As long as you talk about it together, and you're both involved in doing it, I'm having my fantasy fulfilled, and Malcolm's pleasing me. Whether it's he who's doing the pleasing or he's watching somebody else doing the pleasing.
Yeah, it's quite a buzz to watch someone else with your partner. Partly because they're getting satisfaction. I always think if you love another person, then you'll love what they love, sort of thing. And I suppose partly it's that you feel quite proud that the person you're with is is liked by someone else as well.
I couldn't cope with that. No. I couldn't cope with the thought that Malcolm was with somebody else, even in my presence.
But the buzz I get is, sort of fantasising about having sex with somebody a lot younger, and the buzz I get is that they would actually want to do it with me, sort of my age, And I think, well, some people still find me attractive, and I think that's really, having been in a long-term relationship, which the sex was just not considered, right at the end, that in my 50s I am sexual, I want sex, and I get it.
I always find it a bit suspect when people say it's not important to them in a relationship. I thought, how can you have a close relationship with that not as a part of it? In relationships where sex hasn't been satisfactory, the whole relationship has felt unsatisfactory. And I don't think that's entirely because the sex wasn't satisfactory. I think it's just almost like a sort of symptom of general unsatisfactoriness in a relationship as a whole. It's like something like a lack of closeness, perhaps.
It's certainly true that when your relationship starts to founder, that certainly for me, I've experienced that your sex drive just, the desire for the other person just disappears, doesn't it?
Yeah, you notice it very much in bed.
If you actually is the sexual passion, well, I don't actually know is the true answer to that. Sexual passion. Is the sexual drive? Yes. Is the sexual need? Yes. Is the sexual satisfaction? Yes. Is the sexual desire? Yes. But passion.
Occasionally.
You know what?
I think Rosemary's got it, that it's peaks and troughs, because when you first meet someone, your sexual attractiveness to that person you would describe as passionate. It just fills every other part of your life, and that person is the most central thing that you want to go for. And I think that's my definition of passion. It's that sort of burst. But I think that I would hate to think that our lovemaking was without passion. but it's the peaks and of it. Would you agree with that?
I suppose so, yeah.
But if you felt passion for a person outside the marriage, then your marriage would be in real danger.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm always aware that one day Patrick could meet someone who would absolutely set him on fire.
Really?
I'd never take him for granted.
But you?
I know it's possible, but I know that also that Rosemary's got such a strong sort of streak of morality in her that she would find it very, very difficult to break away from our marriage, simply because of that, however much she was attracted to somebody.
I do fancy other men, but I wouldn't ever dream of doing anything about it yet.
Well, I think it would be quite abnormal if you didn't fancy other men.
Yes. But what is infidelity? What is unfaithfulness to you? It's a concept. What it may mean to Rosemary is something completely different.
Is it unfaithful that I actually do fancy Rosemary?
Yeah, of course it's not.
Okay, and given a completely different set of circumstances, you two didn't exist. Yes, I'd love to take her out for dinner.
Yeah.
I'd love to walk down the Bother River and hold her hand. Is that infidelity?
No.
Is that
No,
wrong?
I feel like that about you too, and
right.
I wouldn't dream of doing anything about it.
Within the boundaries of the relationship that are already there.
Right.
So I think that's the...
And we're quite open about it.
But then having an affair is not just about sex, is it? It can be, I suppose, seeing somebody and sex not being involved. But then could that just be a good friendship? Where do you draw the line? What is an affair? Is it because you have sex?
It's what your intention is. I don't think it's the action, it's what the intention is, how it's actually delivered. You saying that you would find Rosemary desirable in another situation, or if she was single, then you would ask Rosemary out. That's absolutely fine to
So
say in the
attractive,
open.
not desirable.
Attractive then.
You're taking it further because you're my wife.
Sorry. I know what you mean by attractive.
No, you don't.
Okay.
Do not
I'm
put words
making
in
an
my mouth.
assumption.
Correct.
If, on the other hand, you rang Rosemary up and said, "Is Patrick there?" "No, he isn't. I want to tell you that this is what I think of you," then I think that is being deceitful, and so it's the intention with which the message is delivered.
And I think that happens a lot in life, that people sort of make a half move.
Yes, and it's picking up whether it actually is meant to be open and honest, or whether there's an element of this is undercover, because actually if I said this in front of my wife, in front of my partner, they may not actually wish to hear it, because I have other intentions of following it through.
But I have to say that if Patrick was unfaithful to me, I'd find it utterly shattering.
Yeah.
I'd be terribly upset.
Yeah.
The Catholic Church used to say sort of thought, word and deed, didn't they really?
They did, didn't they?
I don't know if I really go along with that, because, well, I guess not, it was less than sex probably. If I found out that you'd been snogging somebody at a party or something, I feel very hurt.
Yeah, absolutely. It's much less than sex. Much less than sex. Even just a thought. Thought does come into it as well, I think. Really fancying someone else. I mean, I don't want you to fancy anybody else.
What about flirting?
Yeah. There's flirting and there's flirting.
There's flirting and there's flirting. Yeah.
It's funny though, isn't it? When if I'm on my own, if Claire's not around, then I'm probably going to be more flirtatious than if she is around. And I think probably with you as well. You're probably less likely to flirt with other men if I'm there than if I'm not.
Yeah, but then we don't not talk to people that would talk to us. You wouldn't stop talking if a woman came over and said to you, you wouldn't say, "Oh God, I can't dare do that because Claire's here," because you wouldn't, and vice versa.
Martin's always been a bit of a flirt. And he's always done it quite openly in front of me.
I mean, earlier in our relationship, that was the whole adjustment that David had to make.
Yeah, I really had to adjust to that because you know, it
that's
was.
what I did, and that's what I was.
There's a
We'd go out.
difference between flirting and shagging.
Exactly, and he didn't understand that because he hadn't actually had that experience. No, but there is a completely different thing. It doesn't matter whether you've got your hand down the guy's, the person's trousers, and you're kissing him. If that's flirting, then that's flirting.
This is Martin.
That's called pushing the envelope.
But He doesn't do it so much now. In fact, I've started to do it.
It's true. David spent 5 years denying that he ever flirted, and you'd always catch him with his eyes like this as a young guy.
I flirt with the young
And
ones,
now-
and
now
I really,
now he flirts dance like more than I do.
when they come on to me now, I mean, at 45, I don't know whether it's age or what, but to me now, just knowing that they're coming on to me is as good as sex. But Martin finds it amusing at the moment because I flirt more now with straight men.
I'd make a comment about that, which is that because
he's the straight man that you're flirting with.
yeah, I might be the straight man that you're flirting with for one thing, but there's something we share in common is a freedom to flirt based upon a blanket of security that's offered by the relationships that we're in. The freedom to flirt is further enhanced if the person that you're flirting with is of a sexuality that means that, because, like, for me as a straight man, if I'm confident about my sexuality as a straight man, which I am, then flirting with a gay man, I can enjoy the feeling, the sort of positive strokes of somebody else liking me.
Like you were saying with.
But at the same
about
time,
women.
there's absolutely no threat there at all. And maybe, like you saying, the people you particularly like flirting with now are straight guys. Well, that's, again, an additional blanket
he
of
says
security.
that I think he flirts with all young guys, but straight, gay, bi, whatever.
He does it all the time. I think some people are natural. He does it all the time, but he doesn't realise sometimes that that's what he's doing.
Yeah, because always says no harm in going window shopping.
Yeah,
as long
because
as you don't put your hand in your pocket.
Yeah, as far as I know, flirting it makes the day go by, and it makes you feel a bit prettier. Because there's a lot of people in the world that don't feel pretty with themselves. They don't feel that I'm not nice or whatever.
It doesn't make me feel good to flirt with someone. It makes me feel good when someone's flirting with me. But if I flirt with someone, it's because I want something, right? And it's not to do with sex or anything like that. It's normally because it's a job or something, and I feel if I flirt with them or I accept them flirting with me, that maybe no, I don't care if I'm selling myself, because at least they'll know it's not genuine. But there's a limit, because if they start to talk to me about sexuality, then I'll back off.
I love flirting. You love
a
flirting.
total and utter flirt.
Absolutely, absolutely. But that's another form of communication.
Great pastimes, flirting.
Yes, yes, flirting's good fun.
I'm staggered the amount of ladies that will kiss me on the lips to say hello, when I always go to kiss them on the cheek. And I actually say, no, I'm not allowed to do that. Can I kiss you on the cheek? And I do it. And it's my way of just keeping the rules, keeping the.
I know the problem you're talking about, Eddie. It always slightly
It's
starts.
difficult to stop my tongue coming out of the water. I have to be very careful.
Absence of self-control.
And then sort of get my hands round them.
Yeah, I think flirting is something that, for me, it comes quite naturally. I don't actually think that it's not a conscious decision, is it with you?
No, it comes completely naturally.
What do you do when you flirt and you've got the control, but you realise that you flirted a bit too near the mark, and they are either groping you, or they are wanting to take it further. You're then having to back them off.
You can do that very, very quickly.
Just tell them to F off.
No, you don't. No, you don't have to do that. You can be very subtle about it, but you actually make the message absolutely loud and clear, so that if they do pull you,
Get your hands off my arse.
No, it wouldn't. It wouldn't need to be like that. I think. You think about body language, it's so powerful. You're walking down the street and you actually smile towards somebody coming towards you, and 9 times out of 10 they will smile. You've got the power to make that person smile. That's just body language.
Yeah, but if you've flirted with somebody,
yes,
and they've got the signals they think to go further, so they start, hold you, touch you, whatever, how do you then just, through body language, stop them?
You remove yourself away from that person. You actually make sure that you are not close to them. And I suppose I would stop flirting with that. That's when I'd be conscious. Yes, I've been flirting. This is being misinterpreted that I want it to go further, and I'd stop those actions that are actually being misinterpreted.
I had when I first went on to parish council, there was a gentleman there many years ago, so he's long since gone, and he used to give me a lift occasionally. And he said he wanted me to go out for a drink with him, and I said no. And he said, oh, well, I don't mean any harm by it. So I said, well, you speak for yourself. I'm going straight home after parish council. I don't find flirting acceptable at all. You know, that would hurt. That would hurt my husband, I'm sure. It would certainly hurt me if he started flirting with Shirley Bassey. Even if he ever got nearer.
I mean, we've got friends of both sexes, haven't we, really?
Yeah.
And we've had to sometimes, like you, go to meetings with other people, you know. This is where
I
difficulties
think that's how it
set in.
starts. Like this chap saying to me, come out and have a drink with me. And then you go out for a drink with someone, and what about going out for dinner? And it moves on. And I think that's where the danger starts, isn't it, really? The actual act of flirting may be no different, as you say, to someone touching someone, which I do. But that's not flirting as far as I'm concerned, it's just being friendly. But if you agree to go out and start, what more or less amounts to a courtship, doesn't it? If you start asking people to go out with you, then that's when I back off. You don't do that at all.
Sleeping with somebody else is definitely being unfaithful, isn't it?
I think
sleeping with them and any other sexual act.
Always counts as being unfaithful. I mean,
Well, any other sexual act, though.
Well, that's right, because there's all these other
is...
sort of gradations, isn't there? I think, I mean, it's difficult to know where it starts.
I think the line is
what,
the physical.
And where you're thinking as well, the way you're
wanting.
thinking about it, what you want from it, you know.
Yeah. Setting out to, you know, if you sort of see someone that you think's, you know, fairly attractive, and you can start chatting to them, and that's not necessarily, you know, there's not necessarily anything wrong with that. But then it's to start thinking, I want more than just chatting, and really wanting that, because I think you can be unfaithful without any of that in some ways. If your thoughts like, I really want to be with that other person, but you haven't done anything about it, I think that's about being a bit unfaithful.
Well, it has an impact on your relationship if you start thinking that way, doesn't it?
Yeah, and certainly more so if you start telling your partner.
That's a big mistake, yeah.
No, I'm a dog. No, I'm a dog. I take the number, but it's in the car where she can see it.
That just kind of like seems.
I just take it
But
out.
aren't you then
No,
lying?
no.
No, excuse me. If I met you and then I'm kind of flirting with you, and I've given you my number, then I've given you my number because I'd like you to call me. And it's, if you're not going to call me, then I prefer you not to take it.
No, but at the end of the day, it's politeness to take it.
Do you give them your number then, as for politeness?
No.
When they say, could I have your number?
No, they don't get my number.
If you've met someone and they've made it clear that they are interested in you in a physical way, or they'd like to get to know you better, you've got a partner at home, right? What's crossing the line? Do you accept that you've taken their phone number, you call them? To me, that's crossing the line.
But I think
they've made it clear to you that they want to get to know you better, and they've offered you a drink. You go. That's crossing the line.
I think that the thing is at the beginning that you don't take the number in the first place. Because why would you take the number?
The whole point of this, for me, is that it doesn't bother me. It's bothering her, but it doesn't bother me. Because, like I said to her in the past, you know what you're going to lose. So you do what you want to do. I've gone past the stage of worrying about, if she's with somebody else at the end of the day. I've gone past that. I've been through all that. I'm not going through it again. I'm living my life the way I want to live it with her, and that's it. At the age I am now, I cannot be jealous all the time, because if I start being jealous, I'd start getting stressed. I get stressed, I'm going to get cancer. So what's the point? At the end of the day, I know her. She obviously doesn't know me.
Yeah, I mean, where there are problems are where the rules change for one person, but the
not
other
for the
person
other.
doesn't know about it.
No.
And that's a recipe for disaster.
I've known people in a relationship say, oh, it's okay, be unfaithful, but I don't want to know about it. As long as you stay with me, you can do what you want, but I don't want to know about it. Or they turn a blind eye or whatever. And I wouldn't want that anymore. I wouldn't want not to know what was going on. Because I think you have the right to have a choice.
When our relationship is strong, we know what the rules are.
Yes.
We know we both like, or you know what I like and I know what you like.
Yeah.
So it gets a bit difficult to say if you found out that somebody was doing it behind your back. I don't think either of us would do it behind each other's back.
No.
Because we talk about things and we do things together,
And it would be the end of
I can't actually see that we would want to do anything
No.
outside
Well, that's
of what
the
we
thing.
do already.
And if we did, the other thing is if we did, then that would be the end of the relationship. You know, if in,
well, it was because
if in fact, you know, sort of you went. I mean, say when you're in Cyprus, you know, you met this bloke and you were madly infatuated with him. Came back and said, look, you know, I'm sorry, I want to go back there again, and you know, I'm going back, and I'll jack my job in. Well, that's the end of the relationship. You know, that's if she comes back and says, met this bloke, is I'd like to meet him again.
But
do you think how about us going out for a holiday next year, and or his coming over, and we'll invite him round for session one evening? Well, that'll be fine, you know.
In the 8 years we've been together, especially when we were abroad, you know, we'll pick up a third person. I know it's much easier to do, you know, with the same sex couple, but again, I mean, I've had conversations with people that find that. You know, cannot comprehend how I would say we had a monogamous relationship and have threesomes. But I see that as actually just sharing, you know, another person.
It's just sharing a sexual experience.
Exactly. That has nothing to do with infidelity.
Or at all.
If either one of us then saw that person separately, then that's no different to seeing, you know, to having, you know, sex outside the relationship.
It's the dishonesty, isn't it? So to me, as soon as you start thinking about someone else in more than just liking someone as a person or as a friend, and what, you know, thinking about them in a completely different light as, you know, I really quite fancy that person, then that's where the dishonesty begins. And when the dishonesty begins, that's where
it might also be where the honesty begins, though, because as soon as you start thinking that about somebody else, then what does that say about your relationship with your partner?
Who are you being honest with in that?
Yourself, perhaps.
Or
yourself,
not, but maybe not being honest with yourself.
Well, I guess I
mean, I think that's where a lot of affairs begin and develop, is in that same degree.
There has to be a catalyst, isn't there, for moving out of an unsatisfactory relationship. It's not usually, it's very rare that someone would say, I'm very unhappy with this relationship, so I'm going to go and live by myself. I don't think that happens very often.
I don't think people go into an affair thinking, oh, well, I'll go into this affair because it's offering me something I'm not getting in it.
No, you've worked that
You
out.
don't analyse it like that. In retrospect, you can look back and think, that's why I did it. That's why I was available for that opportunity.
And I suppose when you consider it, it's like that person who's fulfilling all the bits of you that your relationship that you're currently in doesn't give you.
Yeah.
You know.
Just like, you know, I went into the restaurant, lobster thermidor on the menu, I ordered it, it was off. The restaurant down the road had it.
I've had experience of being in a long-term relationship which I believed was totally for each other, and I was cheated on, and the pain, the suffering that it puts someone through is just devastating, and I cannot...
You mean you?
Yeah.
But
I didn't have the affair, my husband had
you had
an
the pain
affair, but I had the pain and the suffering.
Like most men, he wanted his cake and eat it. He actually wanted the affair, but he still wanted you, didn't he?
Yeah.
It took a long, long time before he actually then, whether it was by developing his comforts elsewhere, had the guts to say, right, I'm going.
No, he didn't say, I know I'm going. I said, no, you're going.
Oh, right.
At the very end.
Right.
But I mean, I think it's such a painful thing, so I think I have strong views on it. But I had strong views on it before it even happened. It was, but I think the other interesting thing is, as in a lot of cases, when you face crisis, you behave in a totally different way to how you anticipate and expect to behave.
You'd have forgiven him?
I would have, absolutely, totally. I would have looked at all of the good bits and
So your
brought
rules
that
have
in.
changed completely with me
Yeah.
against him?
No, I'm saying that the rules are still the same. I feel perhaps more strongly about it now.
Yeah, but you loved him.
Yeah.
You're supposed to love me more.
I do,
So you
totally.
make the rules harder for me than him.
But I know that it would be something that you wouldn't break.
Well, that's true, but, you know.
It has happened.
What?
What has happened?
You did end up taking someone home one night and I found out about it later.
Who's that?
From the King's Arms, but that was because you were very drunk. When you lived at Crouch End.
Who's that?
I've no idea. I must admit, I mean, I knew he'd got very drunk this night and he was out with two of his girlfriends and he'd taken this guy back to his flat and...
As soon as it's actually quite
whatever,
funny you mentioned, you know, that there may have been an occasion, but that was the first time. You said King's Arms meant nothing.
No,
didn't
but
trigger any memory.
I must admit,
Here, but probably
didn't
slept here.
It didn't affect me. It didn't make any. It didn't make any difference, or because I knew, you know, there was nothing deep in it.
So you believe that I'd had a sexual relationship with another person whilst intoxicated?
No, a one-night stand.
Oh, okay, a one-night having sex with somebody, and that didn't bother you?
I didn't hear him say that. What I heard David say was it didn't change his feelings about how he felt about his deep feelings about the nature of the relationship.
Yeah. Oh no, I wasn't happy. I wasn't happy at all.
And if it had happened 6 more times?
But it actually came out a long time later in a conversation. But no, I remember it didn't.
What?
It didn't.
Were you surprised? You sound almost surprised that it didn't hurt you more.
I've probably been hurt a hell of a lot more, John, in the past. You know, hurt really. I know what. I don't know if either of you or any of you has experienced real, you know, what someone that you really love, you know, when they really do the dirty on you, and how you don't know what you've done wrong. You know, and I didn't feel like that.
If you were physically incapacitated and we couldn't have sex, then I know that we could be great friends.
Yeah.
But there is still that animal within me, there is still that sexual desire within me, and I might actually say to you, do you mind?
And I would.
If I did it on a purely physical basis.
Yeah, and you see, that's where I would have...
No, but you don't know, because if you became physically incapacitated,
you don't
and
know.
you know my desire is still, you do not know that you might say to me, yes, go and do it.
Would you feel the same way though if it was the other way around?
Yep.
Yeah, I guess you would.
I would, categorically.
Yeah, it says that, I don't believe it.
I actually think that you could go and have an affair, and because I feel such a depth of relationship with you, I'd forgive you, I think. I wouldn't just say, I might say out, but I think I'd miss you.
I don't know where my line is, because knowing that I'm in love, it's very difficult to really say where my line's going to be, because she might have slept with someone and I might be the cause of it at the end of the day. So for you to turn around and say, yeah, I'll blow you out, you know, that's why I said no. It's not as easy as you think it is.
I know, I never said it would be easy, and I know it will not be easy.
No, you didn't
but
say
to
that.
me,
You
it would
said
be harder to stay with you because I am so,
No,
my
you-
mind
you-
is
yeah.
so imaginative.
No, you don't.
I
You see,
will see what you were
the
doing
thing is,
and
the
I
thing
was
is,
too
Steve,
hurt and I just,
let me
you know what I'm like when I'm hurt.
No,
I just,
but
I
Dee,
just stay away from
the
things.
thing is, Dee, you don't really know yourself.
No, I don't know,
You-
but
until,
I do.
so you
I
can't.
do.
You basically can't really chat about the whole thing until you've been there, deep in there.
If I found out that John had slept with somebody else or been unfaithful, it would definitely finish our relationship. There'd be no going back. I could not ever trust that person again. How about you?
I'm a bit conflicted about it in the sense that I quite like the idea of being monogamous. There's the male part of me that would like to think I can go and shag anything that moves. But at the same time, I've tried to do that and failed miserably at doing that anyway. I was never any good at shagging around. And know that I like emotional attachment. But I'm not going to deny that there's a part of me that that is aware of that tendency.
Of course, yeah.
But having said that, and having acknowledged that, I'm more than willing, in the face of your commitment to us being monogamous, to be monogamous.
I don't think I'd be jealous if Janet went off with someone else, but I think I'd be saddened because it would mean that there was something wrong with the relationship.
Yes.
Not so much in sexual terms, but that something had gone wrong somewhere else.
Other things, that you weren't actually saying, I'm not happy about.
Yes.
Because I think there's a spillover, and I think what's happened with my husband and I is that we separated our sex life from our other life, and we didn't talk about things, and we didn't make a complete relationship.
Yes.
And I think if you don't do that, it just starts to slide.
I have once got extremely jealous.
What's
Do
that?
you remember? Well, it was in Singapore, and it was a wild party, and about 4 in the morning we were all sort of swimming nude in the pool and all that sort of stuff, drinking champagne.
I wasn't swimming nude in the pool.
And I discovered Patrick kissing someone behind a pillar. He didn't think I could see him, so I said, Patrick, stop that. You know, it's hundreds of people there. And he just moved further around the pillar so that I could see.
We had a lot to drink. I do remember
I
this
was
incident.
absolutely wild with rage. And we got home. It was only a kiss, mind you. I didn't speak to him for 3 days. And I've never felt so violent in my life. But on the 3rd day, I could have hurled a can of kidney beans at his head. I was still so angry with him. And in the end, I had to say, I forgive you. But it frightened me how furious I was. Because I've never felt so angry before in my life.
I think jealousy is one of the most destructive emotions that we have within us.
But how would you feel if you saw Susie kissing somebody behind a pillar?
I'd be fine. I would not show it at all. I think when I got home, in the privacy of my home, in a very, funny enough, I'd deal with it in a very business way. I'd say, love, do it. Sit on that chair, I want to talk to you. She'd sit on that chair, and I'd sit on that chair, distance between us, and I'd say, now I've got to tell you something. And I'd do it in a very matter-of-fact way, not in an emotional way.
Mm.
Yeah.
Because I think it's when you become emotional, you say things that really you can't take back. And that's when the real hurt gets into relationships.
Click on screen for more videos of Extraordinary Humans.